Hello, and welcome to Enlightened Affluence. I'm Kendra, your host, and my guest today is Omar Morillo. Omar is like one of my most favorite people in the world, and I had to have him on this channel because he is in the business of finance, but I wanted to really get more into what he does. I know he's passionate about it, but he's had some recent changes and looking for different clientele, but also to let you all know what's out there. So Omar, tell us, like, what's the name of your company and what are you doing now?
Hi, Kendra. It's a pleasure to be in your channel. Thank you so much for hosting me. I appreciate the opportunity and I wish nothing but success for you and your endeavors in this channel with every entrepreneur that you connect with, you yourself being one. So proud of what you're doing.
Thank you.
Uh, so I recently, literally last month, took a leap into independence. In my field, there are multiple ways to be a financial advisor. You can be an employee for a broker dealer firm or bank. You can be with a semi-independent or a hybrid firm, such as what I was with before. And then there's the way of being completely independent, wherein your job is to be a fiduciary for your clients, meaning you put their interests ahead of your own. And that's the route that I took. The reason for that is because independence allows one to serve the client in an unbiased way. Um, when you work for a bank, you're restricted to offering the bank's products and solutions for clients' financial problems or financial goals. When you work with let's say, a company that manufactures their own products, such as an insurance company, then typically, again, you get that pigeonhole scenario where you may even have the option of going into the brokerage space to find solutions for clients, but they find a way to kind of skew um, the way that you do business towards their own in-house product. They may not pay you a certain amount on it. They create a conflict of interest in the environment that um, doesn't serve the client's best interests. And so you'll find that when you're dealing with these companies, the advisors always somehow arriving at the conclusion that the company's product is the best one for you.
Mm.
Um, and that can't always be the
Can't
case.
always be the case.
Yeah. So for that reason, I took the leap of going independent. I mean, there are other reasons beyond that. Just having ownership over my client relationships, my book, and being able to build equity, real equity in my business is of key importance to me. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but it's just not a simple response to your question of, you
It's
know,
not a simple product either.
it's not a simple industry, but I joined recently a group called Octavia Wealth Advisors, and it's essentially a group of advisors who are fiercely independent, saw the same problem, systemic issue in the industry that I saw, and it's very interesting when you find yourself observing that there's an issue in your industry or in anything in life, and
Mhm.
you sometimes find yourself thinking, "Am I crazy? Am, am,
Yes.
am I the only one that sees this? Because there's like 4,000 other guys in this company, and
Hmm.
they're clearly not complaining about it. So I must be nuts." And
Right.
then, and then when you finally kind of step away from that and you talk to other people who have the same point of view and arrived at that same conclusion without you ever talking to them, then it validates why that that your feelings are right, that they're correct,
Exactly.
that there is a problem. So I think perspective, from the point of view of independent advisors, is very, very important, or at least has been a very important catalyst for me to be confident in my decision. I mean, look, I already made it on my own, as in the decision to go up independent, but talking to a couple of people and seeing that in California, in New York, in Texas, in Illinois, we're all seeing the same thing. You know, we don't just all live in the same block or something like that.
Right.
It validates your sentiment a lot.
Yeah, especially
So
when you're a just person and you want to, because I've watched you like literally try to like help, the best that you can and everything. You're one of those people like you really do care about the client. You care about the person that you're dealing with, and especially when you have a product that a lot of people think that they can wait on. So do you mind speaking to that about the necessity of it? Because we'll go out, and we'll blow a few hundred on some shoes and getting some drinks and brunch and all these things, but speak to the necessity of this because this really is a necessary industry. And that's really why I wanted to have you on to get my personal understanding and get everyone to know that like this is actually something you do really need.
yeah, and thank you for that segue. Um, so when I started in the financial services industry, I started in the insurance realm. I started with an insurance company, offering a solution that for people of our background is of paramount importance, life insurance. I started in that space, life insurance on the fixed side of the products, meaning it's not in the stock market. It's fixed, either it's whole life or universal life. And if it's annuities to guarantee income, it was on the fixed side as well, meaning it didn't fluctuate with the market. But I pretty quickly realized that although those solutions are essential, um, there were more options available that fit different clients' needs that I needed to be able to offer.
Right.
So for that reason, the insurance company had a broker dealer, meaning they have a side of the company that is able to engage in the trading of equities in the market and offering products that are linked to the stock market. So they sponsored me to uh, get my Series 7, which is my general securities broker license. And I was able to also study and work towards getting my Series 66, which is my investment advisory license. So now this allows me to shift. I'd rather say not shift, but to complement the protection side of things with the advisory and the wealth management and investment side of things. And then as a student of my business, I decided that it wasn't sufficient to just have these two things and offer products, but I began to realize that there's a need to make these things cohesive.
Mhm.
So I started pursuing the certified financial planner designation. This happened in a couple of years ago, shortly after I got my securities licenses. Started working towards that. Went back to school, was cracking the books. It was no easy process, but it was totally worth it because what the certified financial planning designation does is that it helps the advisor look at a client holistically and say, okay, instead of building things as one-offs, we're going to arrange it so that everything works in cohesion with one another. We are going to build a house essentially when we're building a financial plan. And I like to picture it like a pyramid or like any building, right? Where do you start? With the foundation.
Mhm.
You never start building a house from the roof down. It never happens, right? You start from the ground up. And the way many people are looking at their financial plan and their financial lives nowadays is from the roof down. That's why it doesn't work. That's why it keeps failing. And especially in our communities of people of color, right?
Yeah.
Having the conversations when I first started in the financial services industry around insurance revealed a lot of that to me. There's a lot of ignorance around this topic, but what financial planning education did for me as an advisor was show me that you have to start with the foundation. The foundation is your 6 months emergency savings. The foundation is the life insurance that needs to be there because if something happened to you and you're not around, your family depends on your income. Therefore, there needs to be a way to replace it.
Mhm.
And I want to dig into that a little further because many people think, well, I don't want to leave these people $1 million because if I do, then they're going to just go and waste it. There are ways to control that. It's called estate planning. It's called estate planning. You're able to create a trust. You're able to create a will that dictates how your assets are controlled and handled. If you're a person that makes $50,000 to $100,000 a year, that means you need $1 million to $2 million of life insurance. And I'm going to tell you why. It's very simple. We take that $1 million, right? If all we're looking for is income replacement, we take that $1 million per your trust instructions and invest it in a way that yields 5% every single year. At 5%, $1 million generates $50,000. Your family continues receiving your income as if you never left every single year, because the principal is staying invested and is generating sufficient return for you to live off the income that would have been there if the individual that was the breadwinner would have passed away. You need $100,000, $2 million. I mean, and you can keep upping the numbers, right? You need 150, $3 million. Oh, well, what if they get an 8% or a 10% return? Really? That's very aggressive. That means you need less insurance, but that means that your family is going to have to invest the money in a way, or your trustee is going to have to invest the funds in a way that generates a lot of interest, which means it's going to take a lot of risk, and there's a possibility that the principal may be diminished or lost. Do you want that? No. So we have to think from a conservative standpoint, or a moderate standpoint at least, how these proceeds could be invested so that they can generate the income that you would have brought home otherwise. And so that's how we get around the conversation. And then people come up with these numbers like, oh, I want $250,000 of life insurance. Well, how'd you come up with that number? It just sounds like a lot of money to you. You just have never seen $250,000 piled together. So there was a lot of resistance, and there's that inclination to want to do what the client wants, but then as time progresses, it's saying, no, Mr. or Miss Client, that's not how this works. That's not how this works. It works this way, and this is why you need to go in this route. And that education of the consumer, right? Because at the end of the day, all I am is a guide to your successful journey. The client is the hero of the story, and sometimes the hero may have some misconceptions, and you just have to clarify them so that they can go the right way, right?
Right.
So that's one around insurance, right? The other one that's really big, and it's still insurance related, it's disability income. Doctors, medical professionals, especially doctors and surgeons, get this hammered and drilled into their brain when they're in med school, when they're doing their residency, about the importance of protecting their ability to earn income. Because if you are a surgeon, and I don't know how many of you have watched, did you see that movie, Doctor Strange? The Marvel movie. He's like a hotshot surgeon.
Oh yes.
Right? Remember, he was driving that car, that expensive car, and then he crashes it, and his hands went right through the dash, and now he can't do surgery, right? He's going to basically off himself. Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Like a guy like that, so smart, right? So charismatic, could still probably, even if he doesn't, he's unable to operate anymore, right? So let's play that out. So a doctor, a young surgeon, gets into an accident, can no longer practice, as a surgeon, but he can still be a doctor. Having disability income protection can literally make up for the shortfall in earnings between those two fields, allowing you to continue working. I'm talking about somebody who's highly educated and highly specialized here. If simply you're an entrepreneur like yourself and me, who are in the business of helping people, offering a product or a service, our ability to earn income is just as important in our own occupation. And if you find yourself in a position where you can no longer do that, what happens to your income? What happens to everything that's planned around that income? Because when we build a financial plan, I'm going to talk to you about your retirement plan contributions, your wealth accumulation contributions, your short-term and long-term projects, right? All of these things are predicated on the income that you earn. If you're unable to earn that income, then it all goes sideways. So remember when I said about building the house from top to bottom instead of from the bottom to the top?
Absolutely.
It's exactly how people want to have the conversation, because this is what they've been accustomed to anyway. you walk into these banks and these financial institutions and you want to open up an investment account, they don't care. They're going to open it for you anyway. Whereas I have the same ability. I'm going to ask you, do you have 6 months savings put away? Because if we put this money and invest it and you find yourself having a financial emergency, then you're going to have to liquidate the investment, maybe at the worst possible time, and take a loss. So we avoid that by having already a reserve put aside so that we don't have to worry about these things. Sir or madam, do you have income protection? Because if tomorrow you can't work for whatever reason, it doesn't have to be something permanent. It could be something that just sidelines you for a year or two, and then you're back in the game. Well, we need to have the ability for you to generate income during that time so that you don't go and liquidate the investments in your retirement account and everything else, sell your little, your real estate projects that you have planned because you don't have enough money to pay the bills today. We avoid all that by having a contingency in place. So then we can get into the next level, saving for retirement, taking advantage of your match at your employer if you work for someone, if you're an entrepreneur, setting up a retirement plan for yourself because nobody's going to give you a 401k, right? You're your 401k, and you have to figure out a way to set it up, right? I help you with doing all that. And then finally, we can get into the esoteric conversation of what investment vehicles to use to grow wealth for the long term. What can we do to ensure that you are able to, I don't know, buy some GameStop stock or something like that, right?
Well, you hit the hot button right there.
But people don't want to have that conversation. I've had people call me for the past 2 weeks with this whole mess with GameStop, just random people, some of them some of them you don't. And they just call me, hey man, what do you think I should do about this? And it's like, what about the foundation, man? You want to get in on the hot stuff, but what about the foundation? So let's assume, let's just say that GameStop wasn't a bubble and you invested money in it and you don't have a financial plan. Boom, your car breaks down. Now you got to go and cash out the investment because you don't have enough money. You get what I'm saying? It's these things that you have to think about in order for, for the financial plan in the long term to be successful. Otherwise it won't be. It just simply can't work.
Right.
And so I'm having those conversations with clients. So that's the long-winded way of telling you what it is I do when I look at a financial plan.
Perfect. But it just hit everything, because a lot of times you'll hear, you get one aspect of, invest, and then you get one aspect of, insurance. And like you said, in our community, we don't always get everything all together. We don't get that talk about, generational wealth. We have a call with some people in my network we do every week about building generational wealth. And this is key to that, because again, we don't have our foundation straight. And especially as an entrepreneur, because you can speak to this as well. When you're trying to build and then you get that punch and it's like, do I stop and go back to the regular gig, or do I stay with what I'm doing, knowing how many people I can help? Did you ever have that moment where you were like getting those punches and you were like, do I stay with this, or maybe I should find another avenue, or, where everything just seemed like it was going wrong?
It happens every month. It happens every month. Sometimes you just find yourself in a slump. It's funny you say that. I was reading something that a buddy of mine posted the other day on his Instagram page. It was Elon Musk, and he was like giving a talk, and somebody asked him, what words of encouragement would you give entrepreneurs out there? And Elon Musk responded, if you need words of encouragement, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. And I'm dying laughing because it's true. It's listen, man. You got to pep talk yourself.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll pep talk myself, and it's like, no, this is what you did. This is what you chose, and there's a reason for that. Remind yourself of the reasons why you're doing what you're doing, and it's yourself. It's you, and it's just being driven. And of course, those moments are going to come, and they come often. Like, what the hell am I doing? Sure. Could just go work for the man and get a check and call it a day, instead of dealing with these things. But
on those days, that's when I'm glad I work with wine. You
but there's a higher purpose, right? There's a higher purpose, and there's a long-term vision, and it's constantly refocusing to that, and not dealing with the frustration of being told what to do when you know it's not the right thing for the client.
know,
You have business that you want to conduct in a certain way, and you have someone telling you, no, it's this way, even though you know that if you go that route, it'll be much better for the client and you'll feel more fulfilled as a professional.
yes,
So just constantly being reminded of that is, and by what I mean by being reminded is reminding myself of that, because
yes,
nobody's going to come around and remind me when I'm here on my own. And we deal with those moments. I think every entrepreneur deals with that, but we have to be internally motivated, not externally, right?
every day. Every day, when you get up, and like I usually I'll start my morning with like my affirmations and meditation and prayer, just like to get started, and then I literally will make my list of what I'm going to do for the day, and I check it off. I check it off. And even when I'm like, okay, I've got this other worry over here, I just have to turn it down. Like you said, it's our head. We have to turn it down. And also like
Yeah.
having, you know, like-minded people. And that was a big inspiration for me creating this channel, because it was like, okay, well, what's out there, and how do I get this, and how do I cover myself? There may be a lot of entrepreneurs. Matter of fact, I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, from musicians to artists to, people who are just starting out, who don't know or don't think they need this. And this is given a way more understanding of that. So how did you get introduced to financial planning? What was the door that opened up to you and said, hey, this might be interesting?
Yeah, so it started, like I mentioned earlier, with the insurance side of things. It started there. That's where it started. It started with the insurance, and then I realized that it's the insurance alone can't be what drives the plan. The insurance is a component, a very important component of the plan, but it's not the plan in and of itself. And I started realizing that a lot of times you have individuals out there who do all of their advisory and planning business with people who are only insurance licensed. And that's not a knock on insurance people at all. Um, Insurance is, again, I mean, I've spoken ad nauseum about it. It's important, but it's not the plan in of itself.
Mhm.
And it was just a need to expand my knowledge to be able to better service my clients, to be of more value to my centers of influence, to be more referable, and to be definitely more um, cohesive in the planning I was doing for people. So that's when I decided getting the securities is important, getting the securities license, and
Mhm.
getting a financial planning designation that allowed me to tie it all in, because we studied trust and estate planning. As a certified financial planner, you have to take college level courses on trust and estate planning. I took those at the University of Miami. Studied insurance in depth, so I understand pretty much how Medicare works, how health insurance works, how um, life, disability, the different types, because there's different types, how they apply in different scenarios, the business planning side of things, the importance of, for instance, if you have a business partner, having a buy-sell agreement in place, right? What happens if you and I are business partners? We own a business, it's worth $2 million, right? We're 50-50 partners. Your million, my million. One of us drops dead. Now we have to pay off the estate.
Mhm.
Maybe there's no liquidity. Maybe all of the assets in the business are built into hard assets and maybe receivables, account receivables. How do we get the money for that? Having a buy sell agreement in place, a drafted agreement that addresses all these things and have it properly funded is very important. Understanding how the retirement plans work for business owners and which ones are the best fit for each particular situation. Like everybody knows about an IRA, everybody knows about a 401k. But what do people know about SEP IRAs? What do people know about defined benefit plans? What do people know about cash balance plans? And I'm coming up to sometimes individuals who are, professionals like CPAs, and sometimes I'm educating them on these things. And again, I'm not saying that as a knock to them. It's just not their specialty. Their job is to focus on the tax side. But I come around because of the specialization that I have, and I'm able to say, hey, here's a nugget of information that might be valuable to you. Maybe you have a business owner who's a standalone guy who's making five, six, $700,000 a year. All right. And it's just him, one man show. You have a lot of those out there,
Yes.
or one girl show. All right. And then this lady is paying taxes off the wazoo and not putting away enough money for her retirement. Have you considered that maybe if you go with a defined benefit pension plan, you can generate a 150, 200, $300,000 tax deduction for this lady, because now she can put away all this money into her retirement plan instead of paying it for, in taxes. And they're like, oh my God.
Oh,
But
you
again,
gospel right there.
yeah, it's just those things, right? Having those conversations is okay. The 401k, great. What about the profit sharing side of things? It's just I apologize.
No worries. We all have to do it.
It's just having a specialization or an ability to have been exposed to all this information, or better said, the opportunity to have been exposed to it, that makes you a more well-rounded professional. And so then taking that on, and bringing it to market. I mean, I've seen the growth in the business, the value, the referrals coming back. I circled back on opportunities that didn't pan out before, and now it's like, oh, well, you didn't come to me with that idea, and it's working out.
That follow-up is
Working.
key. That follow-up is key. Oh my goodness. I know we're going to end up having to do like a live or something to have you back on, but I have two more questions for you. One
Sure.
is, with everything, when you're dealing with that aspect, you're dealing with estate planning, you're dealing with wealth, you're dealing with, this is not always, you have a light personality, you know how to bring the light to it, but it's not always a light conversation. So when you've taken on all of that from your clients, and we really have to go in depth with you for you to help us. So how do you unwind? What do you do to, like, because as entrepreneurs, we have to have a way to unwind. What do you do to bring it down at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day? What do you do?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing I remind my clients of when I'm going through these difficult conversations, right? What's the why? What's it all for? Look, I love financial planning. I think it's fun. It's cool, but it's not my life's passion. I'll be honest with you. My life's passion is more driven towards travel, enjoyment of life, food, family, and friends. Right?
Oh yeah.
That's really what I do it for. Right? That's the why. The why is to be able to enjoy my time with my loved ones, and I have that same chat with my clients. I was onboarding a client a couple of months ago, and I asked her, "Do you have any kids?" And she says, "Yes." How old is she? 7 years old. And tell me about her. And she goes off about her daughter. Wonderful. Can I ask you a question? Is there a will in place? No. Is there a trust in place? No. Let's stop for a minute. Who's it all for? It's for her. And for you, of course, you're going to enjoy life, right? But if you're doing it, this is a primary motivation. So then let's approach this from the standpoint of, from the positive place, that this is for her, right? And it's just grounding back to the why. Sometimes we get so caught up in the what or how that we forget about the why, right? That's what Simon Sinek says, and I completely agree with that. The why is the grounding force. So at the end of the day, to unwind, go back to your why. I go back to my why. I go back to spending time with my wife. I go back to spending time with my kids. I go back to cooking. I go back to opening a good bottle of wine and enjoying it. Once upon a time, I would get on a plane. Now I can't.
Soon, I hope soon.
Yeah. Once upon a time, I would get on a plane. Don't get me wrong. I've been tempted, but no, I haven't done it.
Yeah.
But just going places. Those short weekend trips. Listen, I hate it. I hate it when I leave town for like a week or two, like 10 days, and then you come back and your inbox is just flooded with emails, right? Like just crazy. I live for the Thursday through Sunday trips.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Literally, let's hit the road Wednesday night, wake up in a place Thursday, Friday, right? So I missed 2 days. Not that bad. It's not going to be the end of the world. I usually have my tablet with me or something. and then Saturday, Sunday, get back early so that you can just unwind at home. You know, sometimes you need a vacation for your vacation.
Yes.
Those short little trips, man, they're the best. They're the best. Just going somewhere new and just relaxing and enjoying the food, the wine, and the company. That's all it is. So I love that stuff.
Just
So that's
unplug
the
it for a bit.
that's it. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
So what would you like leave, our audience with? What's something like you think would be an important ideal to leave our audience with today?
The why is the family, right? The
Mhm.
why is you, your mental health, your enjoyment. I like working with people who have families. And that's not to say I don't work with single individuals, but I do enjoy working with people who have a motivation outside of themselves. So I always look at the why first, right? I'm kind of circling or looping back to that. And so if the why is the family, if the why is the people you love, if the wife is your career, your ability to do what you love, then how do you facilitate continuing to do that and the ability to do it at your fullest, right? And the what is going to be your financial planning. Taking care of these things is going to help fuel everything that's in the center, or everything that's in the center is going to allow to fuel everything that goes out externally. Just always go back to the why, and that'll be the case for everything else that you do, um, in life and business, right?
Yeah.
If we ground it in our why, it makes it easy. It makes it easy to do. So, taking care of these things, in the financial side, I always say to my clients, these are the kind of things that either you take care of them or they'll find a way to come around and take care of you.
Mm,
Do you want to be proactive about it?
absolutely.
If we want to break the curses, right, that are our generational curses, right, from our family, if you want to be the one that breaks the mold who has, 2, 3 generations of college graduates, start with you. The why is I want to improve the family, right? Well, how are you going to do it, right? Well,
Mhm.
then you got to have a plan in place for that. Do you want to be the person that your kids have options?
Yes. Yes.
I want options. I want options. Why wouldn't I want them for my kids? Yeah,
Exactly.
but you don't want them to be lazy. I want them to work. Okay, great. You can put things in place to ensure that those rail tracks are in place. There's this mentality, and I've heard it from other people. I've even heard it from people who are very well off, where they say, I don't want to leave my kids too much because, or give them too much because then I'm going to take away their motivation. And then it makes me think, right? You have no control over what kind of kids you're going to get. It's kind of like Forrest Gump said, right? It's like a box of
Right.
chocolates, right?
Yes.
You don't know what you're going to get. So check this out. What's the biggest bank in the United States right now?
Right now,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's JP Morgan Chase.
Oh, why didn't I know that?
What's JP stand for? Jean Pierre. If you look up these people, they're a generation of bankers. Generations. All right, generations of them. And so that meant that this wealthy and successful father at some point a couple of generations ago taught his son, and his son taught his son, and now they're a powerhouse. And you have dynasties. So when we're talking about generational wealth building, right? I often talk to clients about building a dynasty trust,
Ooh,
right? But put the rails in place so that one guy can't undo what 2 generations before did, right?
okay.
Try to
Yeah,
put guardrails in place, right?
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So you look at these families. I mean, call them what you want, call them dynasties, call them generations, whatever you want to call them. They've built businesses that have lasted generations. They've built institutions. Why can't we aim for the same? to aim, you know, and aim for the stars. If you hit the moon, right? Aim for
Yep.
the stars, at least you hit the moon, right? It's the same thing with us. I think that it's more about mastering better in ourselves how we can best guide our children so that they avoid the pitfalls. At the end of the day, they're their own people and they're going to make mistakes, but that shouldn't deter us from our responsibility of trying to do better for the next generation.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm
So
definitely going to have you back on. We have to do this. You know, we're going to get a whole lot of questions and everything. So I appreciate your time so much. So Omar's information is going to be in the memo section at the bottom. You have a website, correct?
yeah, it's octaviawa.com,
Okay.
octaviawealthadvisors.com.
All right, absolutely. So all the information will be down there, contacts. You can put in the comments if you have any other questions. So then when I have him back on, we can address those questions. But also be sure to check him out because you see he's totally into what he does and he really cares about people. And when I get the food channel back up, guess who's gonna be coming up making steak with me? Yes.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
All right, everyone. Have a good day. Bye, everyone.
Have a wonderful day, Kendra. Thanks for having me on. Take care.